Thank you for the invitation from Adobe. This is Greg. My name is Richard Hughes. We run the BA in post-production here at Ravensbourne. We're going to make it a relatively informal kind of discussion-based thing because you guys are all practitioners, you're all in education already, so you know the score. So what we decided to do is really give you a case study to the way we run our course, how it works, how we get our students into industry. That's really the key thing for us today. So I'm going to start off with a little show reel of some of our students' work, which I'm going to show you now. It's just a quick promo to give an idea of the kind of work that they get up to. Excuse the song. That's really a combination of our third year portfolio work, just to give you a quick overview. Let's go back to this full screen for you. So in the next half an hour, 40 minutes, we're going to really talk you through our course, the structure, and again, we're really open to questions as we go. Feel free to put your hand up and we'll answer them as we go along. So this is a little bit about our course. We currently run a BA 3-year in post-production, so it's not a media course, it's not a film course, it's specifically post-production. That's 3 years. We also have a 2-year course which we're just finishing up as well. And it's made up of a core team of staff. So we have 4 kind of core members of staff, and those staff are all industry practitioners. So James is actually, nice of him, has come along, has just started with us down here. So James specialises in kind of graphics. We've got Caroline, who's just finished her MA in 3D stereoscopic, and she does 3 years stereoscopic feature films. Greg, do you want to say anything about yourself?
Yeah, so I edit, of course, but I also direct films, and I'm currently doing a PhD, which is partly around feature film editing, and it's been a really great experience for me. It's given me access to some of the best film editors in the business. Most recently, Anne Coates. I don't know if any of you know or have heard of Anne Coates. She is a legend. She's in her 80s, and she's edited everything from Lawrence of Arabia to 50 Shades of Grey. It was her most recent feature film. She said, "Oh, it's not terribly sexy, you know." So this kind of contact with the industry has been very, very good for me. But also, it's information that I can feed back into the course to the students.
And myself, I'm part-time at Ravensbourne, so we share the subject leadership between us, and I'm basically a feature film editor, so I'm on my 4th feature, which is going up with Lionsgate and cinema release later this year, and then through Imagination Films worldwide after that. So we did one last year, and we got to number 7 in the DVD charts, which is quite good for a small indie for the UK, and we're distributing this time to about 14 countries, so that should be quite exciting. But we certainly combine industry practice and education, and that feeds what we do here at Ravensbourne. We also have a number of visiting lecturers as well, and these may be people that come in for a one-off masterclass, or they might be people that we know in post houses who come in and deliver classes. We even get the students to go into the post houses in small groups as well, so we can give them real-world experiences. Some people we've had in recently for masterclasses.
Most recently, people like Tom Rolfe, who is also a legendary editor. He's a guy who edited Taxi Driver, amongst other things, man in his 80s. We get some of the A-list editors, colorists, visual effects artists who come in and talk to our students about their work.
So off the back of that, what do we do? Well, a bit like some of you guys, we've got a 3-year BA course which we've been running for some 15 years now. We also started a pilot scheme. It was a skill set funded project, which was a 2-year FDA. It's coming to its last year now, and that was 1 year here at Ravensbourne and 1 year in industry, all accredited through skill set, it gives them basically 2 years of a 3-year BA honours.
So we have currently a second year at that course who right now, there's 10 of them out in industry, and they do this course really plugged into industry. So they spend the whole of that second year, so they come in here for 1 year to acquire basic skills in post-production across the range really, and then they spend the whole of the second year out in industry forging ahead with their career as well as completing their FDA.
Over the 3 years, the kind of key areas that we focus on are obviously the key areas of post-production, and we ramp up their skills pretty quickly. So, from anything from machine room skills, building tape-based editing, we still do tape because we still think it's important for them to build machine control room areas and A/B roll edit suites, to working with real high-end 3D stereoscopic systems and color grading 2K, 4K systems as well. So we really ramp them up really quickly. What's really exciting about our course, and over the last 5-6 years, we've had at least 90% going to industry, so over 90% recruitment into industry, into the post-production sector. They may be freelance, they may be working in the post-production industry, or even production companies, and there's certainly a growing industry for our students getting work in the post-production sector.
Because we have a huge cohort here. Across the 3 years, we've got nearly 200 students just doing editing and post-production. And sometimes when we tell people in industry the size of our cohort, they say, well, that's bigger than the post-house sector. Well, it's not exactly bigger than the post-house sector, but it's a lot of students going out, graduates every year. But the fact is, of course, some kind of post-production is going on in almost every sphere you can think of, in business, in the public sector, and so on. Editing, in a sense, is another kind of writing, and it's almost become a life skill. So that's partly why we have such high recruitment rates.
The areas that we kind of cover as part of the course, as you can see here, for us it's really important that we remain fresh and vibrant, and we mod our course pretty much every year. Every year we write new project briefs, and they're based on changes in industry, based on projects, live projects we can get in place. We've been running roughly 15 years. We have a broadcast advisory board, and the broadcast advisory board are made up from leading post-production houses, most of them around Soho, and they meet here every quarter. We can meet with them, we can fire them questions, and vice versa. So we have a dialogue. We want to know what skills the students need to know, and we try and implement those into our course.
We've got a couple of people who are from some of the biggest post houses in London. So the Farm, you've probably heard of, and Envy. We have people from the very top of those companies who come and advise on skills, the kind of skill set that they're looking for in students, which is a constantly changing thing. And of course, what's coming up, what's next in technology.
We continue to have a work placement, and our work placement happens in April of the second year. Students can do anything between 2 and kind of 8 weeks work placement. We do find that a lot of the students who do their work placements end up working for that facility house production company when they finish in their 3rd year, and they continue to work pretty much through their 3rd year part-time as part of that. So work placement is incredibly important, and we have a work placement team here at Ravensbourne that helps place the students in the appropriate environment.
And from work placement through to eventual recruitment, there is this kind of virtuous circle, I suppose, which is that we've been in the game long enough that many of the people now employing our students are former graduates from here, which is a good position to be in.
As I said earlier, we'll come to the technology side in a minute, because technology really underpins a lot of the work that we do. We also have, as you can see here, a number of practical projects. So we run practical projects in lots of different ways. We get source material from other students from other courses. So we've got a digital cinema course here, and they shoot some stuff, we cut it, we buy footage in. We work with producers and directors on live projects, so we've done film trailers and similar promos where producers and directors will come in, brief the students, and be involved in the assessment right the way through the project. And some of these students get to, produce the final product that goes out there. Some of them get paid, some of them get internships. So again, live projects is really key for us. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Integrated technology. So we're working in 3 ways at the moment. Our students are really lucky. They don't realise how lucky they are. They when they start here at Ravensbourne, they get a £500 or so, if not more, bursary off a laptop. So they can choose either a PC or Mac. Most of our students choose a Mac. So we start with a class of 80 students, all sitting there with their Mac laptops. It's quite good to make sure get them out of Facebook is the key thing for us. But it means they're all on a level pegging, which is really important. Then we give them the Adobe a Creative Cloud. It's basically free for them, so they can download it, and that's renewable every year for them, so that's really effective. And they're jumping on that straight away, and they're using it within the first week of being here at Ravensbourne.
And then on the theme of cloud, we have just signed a contract earlier this year with Forbidden Technologies, whom some of you might be aware have this cloud-based editing kit called Foreseen. And all of our students from the get-go have an account so that they can actually start on their projects remotely, away from base, using the footage, using proxy images and creating assembled edits and then downloading EDLs and so on and conforming here.
Local editing is obviously working on their local computers. We also have various edit suites on level 3. If anybody wants to have a look, we'll show you around later. You'll just come and find Greg or myself. And we've got offline suites, online suites, but also with I/O cards with grade 1, grade 2 monitors in, correct scopes, waveforms, all the kind of stuff you'd expect to find in post houses. So that's the kind of some of the physical kit. And we've also got an iSalon-based back end, so the students can work on multiple streams of video real time. So if we put some video up on the iSalon on the server, we can have groups of students working from the same rushes. Again, that's quite important for us when we're doing training. So no, copying lots of stuff onto different hard drives all the time. We can try and put it in one place. And also that server's connected to our studio. So we've got live ISOs from our TV studio downstairs. So if we want to either send a VT insert back to the studio or take a feed from one of the cameras to do a live key or similar, we can do that straight into the post-production area. So it makes us really integrated. The whole building itself is really kind of technology driven.
We are actually in process of upgrading both the back end and the front end of our kit. We've had the current, system in place for about 4 years now. We are poised to invest in an ISIS server and Avid Media Composers. We're going to look, I think, increasingly very much like what you would find in industry.
When it comes to technology, it's nice to have lots of gadgets. We try and train students in everything. So we say, this is what's out there, this is what you can use, this is what industry's using. And so a lot of time when we run projects, we don't specify which piece of software or hardware somebody should use. What we try and do is empower them, engage them in all of the tools, all the software and hardware, and they find their route through that. So we go, okay, what is the best tool to use for this particular job? What is your workflow? And that's really important for us, from working from offline to online to finishing to grading and even broadcast, which we do eventually during our Ravensbourne show every year. So again, that's important. So you can see there's a whole list, a tranche of software and hardware that's really integral to the students working. I've got to say, I know this is an Adobe event, but Adobe's really key because it sits on their laptops. A lot of the other hardware and software are bigger systems that we may have 1 or 2 or 3 seats of that sit in our post-production area. So certainly when they're sitting there doing their offlines and they're working with After Effects and Premiere, they can then take it to a full online suite and on a calibrated monitor with a 5.1 surround sound. So that's part of our workflow.
I mean, it's worth just pausing here just to underline how important it is that students are across this kit, that they're comfortable with this kit, because actually this is the kind of stuff that gets them the job. It's great that they'll walk out of here when they graduate with a beautiful show reel, but actually it's this kind of knowledge that gets you the job, in facility houses in particular.
We spend a lot of time trying to network with industry and trying to build partnerships with various industry players. So again, we've just literally a few weeks ago got a brand new film master for finishing and film grading in from UCODA, so that's quite exciting. And also SGO, we've had a long-term relationship with these guys, and we're one of the only places in education in the country with 3D stereoscopic systems in place for feature films, which is quite exciting. Alongside all this technology and hardware, we also deliver, as you guys do, soft skills. We do that in various ways, and there's kind of 4 things here. One of them is a network day, where we literally bring in, through our employment sector, we bring in lots of different companies, and they interview students. So they put their CVs together, and they go through interviews with employers. We bring in, pretty much everybody from all the different post houses during the year for masterclasses. So that, again, is really important for us. We've got an employment unit here at Ravensbourne. Rather than the students just get a work placement, they actually have to go through the process of submitting their CV and doing an application. And so it's a bit like going for a job, and they also have to do an interview. If they don't perform very well, they don't get the internship or the work placement. So again, it's not just like we don't offer them everything on the plate. They've actually got to go through the normal application process that you go through to get a job.
The soft skill thing, again, I guess in tandem with the knowledge and experience of post-production technology, the soft skill thing is actually almost the single most important thing, because entry-level jobs in post-production, all about interpersonal skills, and you're going to be a runner. Even if you leave with a PhD in editing, you're going to be a runner. That's how you start these things. And actually, it's not an easy. I mean, it'll be interesting to hear how you guys do it. It's not an easy thing to teach, the soft skill stuff. So embedded in all of our modules is our obligations on the part of the student to present work. So presentation skills are things that we highly value and promote here. And working in teams is also part of the culture. And I guess that the whole thing about presentation, I think, is probably at the heart of this.
What's key, once they finish the BA, they can go on and do a specialist MA in visual effects. We also have a business incubation unit here, which basically allows, at the moment there's around 100 startups, mainly technology startups, working on level 1 inside Ravensbourne, and they get free resources, so they can come in as a small business and use the high-speed network. They can use software, they can use hardware, they can use camera kit. They have access to pretty much the building to help start up their business. So again, there's a number of our students that have gone on to set up their own businesses here at Ravensbourne. And what's really nice about that is the 100 businesses that are working together are all in the creative industry. So, there might be a production company versus a high-speed camera developer, which there is at the moment, who's developing some great technology. So one company starts to help the other one out and support the other. So there's this growth between the companies as well. So certainly external companies coming in and our students starting up their own businesses is really key. And they also get access to lots of training which is provided free of charge as well through Ravensbourne. Let's move on. The projects we run, people always say, well, what kind of projects are people doing? We try and do projects, lots of different projects in different ways. We try and do as many live projects as we can. And when we talk about live projects, stuff that hasn't been broadcast yet, or trailers that are being made, or promos for organisations, that we try and do as much as we can. Obviously, there's the whole kind of ethics of that and being, do they get paid or not, and all that kind of stuff comes into play. But actually, they get stuff for their show reels, they get stuff that's maybe broadcast, and they get stuff that goes online. So that's really key. So keeping stuff fresh and live as much as we can is really important.
This, particularly for level 3 students, we try every year, and so far we've been very successful, to bring in substantial live projects for them. So this could be a trailer for a forthcoming feature film, where they get an opportunity, it might be in the form of a competition, to edit a trailer that will eventually be the trailer that will be shown for that feature film. Talking of feature films, we have also some feature films where the director or the producer will be using our students in some capacity, from craft editing to maybe just, I don't know, sync pulling or whatever. We had a terrific time during the Olympics. They came to us and our students were making trailers and promos and so on. So we've had quite a lively time with the live projects.
I'm going to, at this point, to give you a break from our voices, I'm just going to play you another small extracts video, only a minute, a couple of minutes long, just to give you a bit of more of an insight into some of the projects. And some of these you would have seen a couple of extracts from in the promo earlier on. These are simple kind of processes. Mostly the students are engaging in After Effects, editing and using various plugins. And these are kind of things that we will teach them during the year. A number of our students go into the visual effects industry, doing wire removal, roto work. Again, that's kind of a key thing for us. So we try and teach them in professional keying, tracking skills as much as we can. The digital film course here at Ravensbourne utilises various cameras from Reds. We've also got Arri Alexas in stock now that the students can use for drama editing. So really high calibre of technology being used, but also the students are using, generally when they can, and buying and using professional actors whenever possible. We try and give them budgets so they can actually employ actors to go and do the work with them.
And where's your brother to help you?
Long story really, I was doing a paper round in the town and I went into an old shop called Boyce and Rogers, asked them if there was any apprenticeships and they said there was. Went home, told my father.
For our students, documentaries are really key. A lot of our guys are cutting documentaries, digital film students are shooting. What's really nice about that is there's so many different small subjects they can get hold of, and short documentaries really work for our students.
Up to their
we generally don't do much long form work.
Material, like I said earlier, where there's snakes and disease and feces. I've seen all of that, and it's horrible. No human should live like that.
We've kind of covered some of these things already. As I said, most of our students end up getting work in the second year and working at that production company or post house in the third year, during the third year. That's kind of us, because we wanted to keep this presentation relatively short and open up to questions, because all of you guys are in education already and you know the score. So is there anything you'd like to ask us about the way we run the course, about recruitment, or any similar subjects? And there's a microphone coming around if you'd like to ask any questions.
How is your retention here?
Actually, it's pretty good, yeah. I'm not sure if I can put a statistic on it or a percentage, but I'd say that dropout rate is relatively small.
We take on about 70 a year, and we've had like 4 or 5 kind of region every year. We used to, so our course has changed. We've gone to this new building and everything's changed. Technology's changed for us. We went from a small place in Chislehurst, and we had cohorts of 30, and we used to have 100% recruitment when we had cohorts of 30. In the last 3 years, retention, sorry. We've increased to 60 or 70 a year now, so it's a huge increase. And now we started to see a few students dropping off the radar. Some of these students actually leave because they've got work, which is actually a really good thing. And that's, when it comes to our FDA course, they're all working, and trying to then get them to hand in the work when they've suddenly got a full-time job, and they're doing 60 hours in the industry is also really difficult. But at the end of the day, what we're after is getting the students the job, and getting them work. That's really key for us. They may not finish the course, they can go out with a certificate or a diploma after finishing 2 years, but they've got a job, and that's really key. So
that is actually. it's many of those students who do fall off the radar are those, as you say, who are finding work in industry, and it's astonishing. Maybe you've already mentioned this, but the number of students who are currently with us, managing to balance their education and their work life. Some of them at level 3 are in pretty much full-time jobs. And managing to balance the two.
When it comes to applications to Ravensbourne, it's about 3 to 1 at the moment, 3 applicants for every kind of 1 place that we have at Ravensbourne. We certainly find what's quite interesting, because we're a specialist post-production course, that people have done a bit of everything and they haven't done much editing. They've done maybe come in with 8 or 10 edits that they've done, normally skateboard videos for YouTube or similar. And what we are really looking for, we interview every student. So that's one thing. We don't just go through the application process and offer people places off the back of the application. We actually bring them into the building. We show the work. We look at the work. We discuss the work. Creativity is really key for us. Qualifications and academic achievement is really important, but it's certainly slightly lower on our list. So when we look to bring students into us, we're looking to what they know already, their creativity, you know, where we can see them, where we can push them to, and then we'll look at their qualifications as a secondary thing before we give them entrance to the course. Does anybody have, yes?
Sorry, when you work on live projects, how do you deal with the challenges of client expectations and student delivery? How do you deal with that?
We don't have anything to do with it, you know. It has to be in special circumstances that we can do this. So first of all, you say it's a live project, but is it an assessed project? And by and large, it can be assessed, but the where it works best is, for example, portfolio. So that ultimately, if what the student produces is you know, a pile of pants, they then, you know, have the option of including it or not including it in their portfolio. As for the client, they just come with a good will and a good heart, hoping that something good's going to come out of it. And actually, if you've got 30, 40, 50 students on the case doing this one thing for you, they're pretty, I mean, most of our clients have come away and been spoiled for choice. And the nice thing about it is that some of them, like E1, for example, was one of our clients. They not only used the promos that the students produced, but then they offered the students, as a bonus, internships. So that worked out pretty well.
Also, because we're a lot of us are practitioners, the feature film that I've just worked on, we were able to get some of the students out on location. We could bring some of the scenes into Ravensbourne for the students to edit. Obviously that becomes difficult because copyright, you know, what you find is you don't want 30 copies of the film before it's out on YouTube. So we have these, you know, agreements, and we sign away our rights in blood, you know, those kind of things. So again, that's always really, really difficult. But we've got to the understanding with most of our students now that, you know, we're bringing you in really good quality material to work on. Please respect that, because if you screw it up, you're going to screw it up for the next year as well. So we have hopefully a good relationship now with our students. But
one of the things that that we've become particularly interested in recently, and it's quite a hard thing actually to teach students the communication skills you need to get on with a client and get the job done. So, like I'm sure you guys, we do role play where we get, particularly at level 3, we get the students to be clients for each other. So it's a real world relationship where one is, for example, an edit producer and the other one is an editor. But if you're an edit producer, you're also an editor for someone else. So for that term, you're really busy managing your editor and being managed by another EP. And what comes out of that is a dialogue, which we assess. So they have to, you know, they have to document their dialogue and be seen to be really communicating effectively.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I mean, very technology driven. And how do you address storytelling in this process?
Yeah, storytelling is right at the heart of everything we do, I'd say. In fact, you'd say it was a defining characteristic of being an editor. Editors are storytellers. Or I guess more accurately, one would say that editors are, as it were, raconteurs. Someone in a sense has already written the story and you're telling it as an editor in the most galvanizing way you can think of. So we right from the get-go in level 1, we get students engaged in storytelling exercises, understanding story as a kind of structure, a machine that has where there are identifiable principles in the way that you can tell story. We get students to reverse engineer feature film, not the whole feature film, but sequences from feature film, so that they can understand from, as it were, add, edit, you know, from deconstructing a sequence in a timeline. What was the DNA of that storytelling? What was the structure? What were the patterns? What's the rhythm? How do we talk about this? So we actually get them to tell stories, so they'll go out and shoot stuff sometimes, but very often our exercises in getting students to shoot stuff is all about, you know, what does an editor need to tell their story in post? You know, what do you need to capture and bring back to the post suite?
We normally front load the technology, so a lot of time in the first year we're doing lots of technology driven units. once they've got a really good understanding of that, certainly it's about story, it's about reading. We generally don't ask them which software or hardware they're using. They come in, they'll show their work, we'll critique that work, they'll present to the students will critique the work, then they'll go away and they'll do it again, and they'll bring it back to us again, and we'll critique it again. And over time and repetition, and we craft the edit, and that's certainly what we're on about, looking at work, showing work, giving feedback to students, going away, doing it again and bringing it back again, okay? And the rest of it, whatever they have on their laptop and the hardware they use, it's really up to them. We try and give them the skills, and then they sit down and go, this is creatively what I want to do, and then we can focus them and get them to use specific software. This is how you do it. So certainly, yeah, that's really key for us.
And in tandem to acquiring those narrative skills is developing and working a muscle for analysing and critiquing what you're seeing, because the sharper and smarter you are about talking about work, the better editor you're going to be ultimately. So there's a lot of peer reviewing that goes on, that is assessed.
What's quite exciting for us, with some of our units, we're running a unit with a third year at the moment, and they're doing a visual effects unit. They've got all the skills, they're shooting a 2-minute trailer, but as a finale to that, rather than sitting in the classroom here, we go over to the O2, the cinemas over there, and we hire the cinema for the morning. So we project their film trailer on one of the biggest cinema screens in Europe. So we go, okay, let's just put it in a place that, where you go and see other film trailers. Let's not look at it in a classroom. Let's go out and see it. Let's invite some people in to see your trailer. How does it stand up? And again, taking stuff out of a classroom, putting it in situ, it makes a massive difference. And they go, oh, that's not quite right. Oh, the sound level's not. The grade's dreadful, because they can see it against commercial products, and that's really important again for us. So again, tie up. If you can get the opportunity, tie up with your local cinema, things like that. They're great experiences, and it raises expectations. They know that we're going to see every error, every problem, every key issue with their work as soon as we project it, and it's 50 foot wide. So okay, thank you. That's a good question. Thank you.
How do they acquire, and how do you keep up to date the software skills? So how do they learn? Who's teaching them, and how do the teachers stay on top of that?
We never sleep.
That's one way.
But we're doing it slightly differently over time. So I guess like many of you, have invested in lynda.com, which changes the landscape quite considerably. I guess we try to remain, in a sense, software agnostic here, although clearly we know that there are key players for the industry, and the students must have those skills when they leave here. But often the projects
So what are then can you tell me?
Yeah, so we call this an editing and post-production course, which is a bit of a tautology in a sense, because editing is. But the reason we call it that is because editing is at the heart of everything that we do here, and the other post-production skills are very much a part of the package. So visual effects, sound design, motion graphics are part of that package. So for editing, the key software is Avid and Premiere. There's almost really no other show in town. And then we know for grading, this is great. There's never been a better time teaching post-production, because this is the world of free for the most part. For our students, they can download Resolve for free. They can download Nuke for free. Smoke and so on. There's a lot of great software, professional software that students can use for virtually free, and so we are pointing them to Lynda, but very much a lot of these things are bedded down in smaller software tutorial groups. But everything it's not about teaching them software. It's driven by make a thing.
I've struggled with the group size change from 30 to 70. I've been doing After Effects for maybe 15 years or so, and I'm teaching small groups, but also we're teaching groups of 70. And some of these students, when they first start in the first year, haven't even used a Mac before. Some of them are doing kind of 3D lighting and image projections in After Effects, and they're like way beyond, some of the others. So again, it's about peer-to-peer learning, pairing people up, people that don't know do know, reinforced knowledge, all those kind of really clever teaching practices that you go through, inside a class. So yes, it's a huge challenge, and they do come in with a real mix of levels, software skills. How do we stay current? A lot of us, because most of us are part-time, We are all editing, so I've just finished the film, and that was again a cut on Premiere. So I'm going, okay, yeah, well, I've learned that stuff. Then I can bring that back and feed that back into my training here. I think that's the only way it will work. Otherwise, you would collapse. Otherwise, so yeah, part-time is the way to go, I think.
Oh yeah, obviously your move up here a few years ago. How difficult did you find it to get new work placement opportunities for students and keep refreshing them on an annual basis?
I think it was easy. It was easier in some ways. Our location helped because we could say to the post industry, you know, if they're based in Soho, get on a tube, and we're at North Greenwich, and we'll see you here. You know, we also started. We've got an editing bulletin board. There's like an external bulletin board we run. We're running Twitter feeds as well as part from the course. And again, engaging in industry and getting them engaged with us directly is really important. So social media comes into play. Physical location really helps. The problem that we had was increasing the group size from 30 to 70. Can we get placements for that many students? And that was our biggest problem. I would say we're probably more connected now than we were. And I would also say that, you know, when one or two companies get on board, you know, the others want to jump on board as well. And that's what's really happened for us. We've been quite lucky. You know, a lot of companies want to put products with us, so we've been really lucky because we're training the students. They go out there, and in a few years' time, our course has been running for 15 years, and a lot of our students are now running the facilities. So we can go in and basically go into all the post houses and go Ravensbourne, and they're all pretty much from Rave, a lot of them anyway. So that really helps us. And if they've learned the hardware and software here, they're the ones that are going to be buying the kit again. So again, that's really important. But it's a hard thing to start if you're not in that place.
So this is a question for anybody in the room actually. How are you motivating your students to find jobs and get jobs? Because I work in industry, not post-production, I work in the design industry, and we're really struggling to recruit the right people at the moment. We've had 500 people applying, but they're just not the right people. They're kind of, this year it feels like students have become a bit lazier. They're just sending CVs out, which have terrible typos in them, are poorly designed. Their portfolios aren't relevant to the industry that they're trying to apply and get jobs in. So what are, this is a bigger question for everybody, what are educators doing to equip their students? Because I don't think it's been very good this year.
Wow, that's a question. A couple more minutes left.
There might be a response right here.
Go.
This man has the answer.
Okay, I teach a degree in computer science, so again we have students doing web design, web development. And the problem is that most courses are academically driven, not industry driven. So I think it's refreshing to come to a place like Ravensbourne where again when you say, I don't really care about retention, you didn't say that exactly, but again employability is the key thing which is driving. I think what happens very often in course of design is academically designed. So hence the learning industrial skills is not top of the priority. So again, it's getting a first-class academic degree in a subject area. So I think the future would be where you're designing degrees working with industry itself. But on the other side, I think there's an expectation where industry wants contractors as students, where they want people to have the skills. So do you have 4 years Dreamview experience? Do you have 4 years Photoshop experience? The person says, I'm just a student. And I think that's, so it's a bit of a mismatch as well. That's just my opinion.
We found that
It's always been the industry always moans about students. That's so in my experience, this is a story that I heard as a student, and I've heard all the way through my career as an academic, but also from other academics, that students are never ready for the industry. So maybe the industry should also kind of be less demanding a student that is, completely fitting their demands. So do you feel it's getting worse?
On the back of that, I'd like to encourage anybody that's from industry to contact your local college or university and try and engage with them, because it's quite difficult from this position, getting out to industry, get you guys in, because if we know what you want, we can give you guys the trained students for your jobs. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.